Rams defensive tackle Aaron Donald would have to come from the Rams themselves. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the Rams are not going to suspend Aaron Donald for their season opening game.
Can't they all just get along? Along Harry Douglas, I'm Freddie Coleman, in for the boys today on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Presented by Progressive Insurance on ESPN Radio. Catch us on Sirius XM Channel 80, as well as ESPN2. And we're not about to fight this one, right, Harry? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, my man. Good to be on with you this morning, Freddie.
Always good to be on with Harry Douglas. By the way, you can hit us up anytime you want on Twitter at Coleman ESPN and at HDouglas83. Don't forget the phone number as well, the 888-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Harry, the minute that I saw that whole Braveheart situation that happened between the Rams and Bengals at a joint practice, I said, so you're worried about the risk of players playing in preseason games. That seems to be the mantra in the National Football League. There was more of a risk for injury with that whole deal involving the two teams that met not too long ago in the Super Bowl earlier this year.
Yeah, Freddie, and I'm kind of wondering about this whole thing because these two teams, like you just mentioned, just played in the Super Bowl. And we've seen a guy like Aaron Donald, who I think is the best player in the National Football League, hands down. I don't care what anybody else has to say. I believe he's the best player in the National Football League. But he made two plays in that game, in the run game and then in the pass game, to help secure a Super Bowl victory for the Rams. So I'm kind of wondering if anybody from the Bengals felt some type of way and tried to attack Aaron Donald. But I will say this, man, Aaron can't be out there hitting people with helmets like that, Donkey Konging people. He can't do that. You can't do that, man. You can't do that. I love AD as a player. I won't say I love him as a man as well. But when you have incidents like this, player safety is at risk, and you can't put other players at risk because you're swinging a helmet. Listen, he's not no little dude.
Right.
So his swings and the force of him coming down, swinging a helmet on somebody, it can really hurt somebody, especially if it would have hit somebody that had their helmet off.
This is a guy in Aaron Donald.
That would have been a whole nother story.
Yeah, this is a guy in Aaron Donald, Harry, that takes boxing classes in the offseason. He knows how to really hit you and hurt you if he really can. And you put a helmet in that dude's hands who knows how to swing his fists but without having a helmet in them. It goes back to something you said before he got started. If somebody said something bad about his mother, said he smelled bad, somebody had to have said something to set Aaron Donald off, because that's the kind of guy that plays with controlled ferocity, and he does not allow anything to get under his skin to that level. Based on what I have not seen that from him, Harry, any game he's played in the National Football League, because if Aaron Donald wants to get you, he gonna get you.
Oh, yeah.
But he got to a level that somebody crossed the line, and he wasn't having it anymore at that practice yesterday.
But, Freddie, check this out. Aaron Donald, he does work out where somebody tries to stab him with knives, and he just knocks their hands off without really looking. You know what I mean? He does all this kind of training. But I will say this. You talk about training camp. You talk about joint practices. When I played, we had a ton of joint practices. And was I ever involved in some scuffles? Yes, I was. And just about every team, it's going to happen. Coaches don't really want that to happen because they're really trying to get out there and get good work in against a different opponent because you're practicing against yourself so much. But you're going to have moments where players fight. The only thing I'm going to say, you don't want players doing this now. You don't want players throwing helmets. But then you also don't want players fighting 6 and 7 times throughout a practice because they become unsuccessful then. There's no reason in doing it. Now, we see this year, you had the Falcons and Jets, you had the Panthers and the Patriots, you had the Colts and the Lions, and now you got the Rams and the Bengals, and I'm pretty sure it's a few more other teams that got into fights during the joint practices. But when you have too many within one, or like yesterday, if you're the Bengals and the Rams, you have to cancel it short because of things like this, then it takes away from the great work that you want to get out of it if you're a head coach on either side. Sevens
hit us on Twitter, Coleman ESPN and HDouglas83, saying, why is a fight at practice a news story? Come on, man, we're talking about practice. It's been going on for years. Hey, Seven, it's not like that. That just sounds foolish when you put that kind of tweet out there saying that. What's the big deal? A man took a helmet and started swinging at dudes, and guys kept constantly fighting and fighting and fighting. You can have guys playing chicken fighting once in a while to practice. You're right. Those things go on, have gone on for years. but not to this level. And Harry, I wonder, is it because of joint practices? Guys have fought at practices. Believe me, if you're going against the same dude day after day in training camp before you play an NFL game, you're going to get sick and tired of each other, even if you're related to that guy across the line of scrimmage or if you're going to the guy one-on-one. But when you have these joint practices at a competitive volume, at a certain point, guys are going to get tired of each other. They're trying to prove themselves, trying to make the football team, trying to show their worth, trying to get that testosterone level to a certain point. But this went way beyond the pale. This is not something that we saw yesterday with the Bengals and Rams that has gone on for years at practices, whether they're joint practices or just regular team practices in the NFL.
And I tell you, I love joint practices because I think you can get a lot of work done offensively, defensively, and special teams. It's not often that you're going to be able to go against a one defensive unit if you're a one offensive unit when the two teams are facing off every single day. Normally, you're going against your own guys. But, hey, what if your own team are doing things that you're not going to see necessarily that year defensively? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or offensively. Now you get to go against other opponents and see where players that you're really evaluating, you want to get a strong evaluation of, how do they fare up against the number one corner, right? You drafted a rookie wide receiver number one in the first round. And you have a shutdown corner on the opposite side. When you do one-on-ones, I want to see how my guy fares up. Or you have an offensive lineman that you drafted in the first or second round, and you want to start those guys. How do they fare up against a premier defensive lineman or defensive tackle, defensive end? Those are the type of things you get to look at within these joint practices. But if guys are fighting all day long and coaches got to call practice up and cut it short, what is the point of doing it? And I really do believe that they're valuable. I honestly think they're a little bit, it depends on the situation, a little bit more valuable than preseason games, depending on who your team is. Because, a lot of teams don't play their starters in preseason. So if you have an opportunity to go ones-on-ones throughout 2 straight practices, that's a hell of a lot of good work that you're able to get in as a football team.
Harry Douglas and Freddie Coleman and Keyshawn, J. Will and Max on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. The big question that came out of this whole brawl moment involving the Bengals and the Rams and Aaron Donald swinging that helmet violently at opposing Bengals players was, will he be suspended? Well, only the Los Angeles Rams can do that. The NFL can't do that because it was at a practice, not during an NFL game. And a lot of people are wondering about what is the difference between what he did and what Myles Garrett did for the Cleveland Browns when the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he swung his helmet and hit Mason Rudolph. That was during an NFL game, and the NFL stepped in. You have to wonder.
Why is that even a question? Well, what's the difference?
Because
it's
people want to
clear
know.
as all outdoors.
Well, people don't know
one
the
happened
rules.
in practice, one happened in a game.
Right, but people don't know the rules. They're thinking both of those things should be the same thing, what Aaron Donald did and what Myles Garrett did, and they're not the same thing. That doesn't mean that there should not be a suspension handed down, but there's not one person in that organization that can look at Aaron Donald and go, you know what, naughty, you're going to sit out the first 2 games, including the first game against Buffalo. Nobody's suspending him, mainly because we don't know what led up to Aaron Donald having that kind of reaction, no matter how bad it looked, Harry. Whatever led up to that, there's not going to be a Rams organizational member that's going to say he's wrong and they're right and he needs to sit out games. That ain't happening.
Well, I'll say this. They may tell him he's wrong, but we're talking about a guy who's the best player in the National Football League. We're talking about a guy that the Rams won a Super Bowl a lot because of Aaron Donald and his individual play, not just in the Super Bowl, but throughout the playoffs and throughout the entire season. So, yeah, if I'm the Rams organization and I'm in their front office, hell no, I'm not suspending no Aaron Donald. That's my best player on my entire team. No, he's not getting suspended.
Put it this way. You may want him to be suspended. You may say the NFL needs to step in. The NFL's like, look, we got enough problems. We're not even getting involved in something that we can't do that because I think it's been collectively bargained that the NFL can't suspend whatever happens at practice. That is a team issue. Either way, Aaron Donald getting the NFL